All right, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, citizens of YouTube. This is Pastor Dow. I have a lot of people that are asking me questions about marriage, and of course, when I say it, certain things about marriage, and I'm going to speak about here traditional marriage has been taught to us by this Gentile society called America. Upon careful evaluation, and of course you will have to do some type of study and evaluate the American tradition, the Roman tradition that has been handed down and passed down to us, simply because we're watching everything that we have been taught to be morality quickly eroding in this society. And let me give you an example in my day. It used to be a stigma in my day. And when I mean my day, I'm talking about in my late teenage years, and going off into my early 20s. It used to be a bad stigma that women, if they got pregnant, people used to look down upon a woman who got pregnant before she was actually married. Well, and I can understand it, because that is civilization, the way that they think. That's their stigma. Well, upon careful evaluation, I'm a student of the word, and it's taken me some time in which I've come to a lot of truth. I come to a lot of truth and a lot of conclusions. But it's literally has taken me some time to actually evaluate what real true biblical marriage is, according to what this book says right here. And many of you who are fundamental Bible believing people already know what your mind is going to be. You're going to simply reject what I say, because when we have been reared in a culture, and when we have been reared in a society to think a certain way, we believe, because we personally accept truth, that is all the truth that there is. And that's the reason why there's so many denominations. Because everyone is interpreting the Bible their own way. And the Apostle Saul warned us about people coming, preaching and teaching another Jesus. And how would you know it's another Jesus if, listen to me, you haven't for your own self went to this book to see what the mind of the Most High is, as opposed to religious tradition? Because the one thing I've learned is that the creator universe is diametrically opposed to all religions and all traditions on this earth. And it's simple. All you have to do is just take one subject at a time and study it out. Well, I've spent at least the last 3 or 4 years, extensively looking into biblical Hebrew marriage. And I will tell you this: marriage as we know it today, and as it has been defined in the land of our captivity, some of us, the land of our sojourn, is not what this Bible preaches and teaches. It is something totally different. You have, again, if you're religious and your religion teaches something, you're going to believe that it's gospel truth. The majority of that is another Jesus or another Christ, because what religions and what traditions do is they create a Jesus Christ. They use the name Jesus Christ, the Roman name, American name Jesus Christ. And they say that's who Jesus is. And because they put mental assent to it, people automatically accept that. And that's why you have so many warnings and infights. But if you really truly read that Bible for what it says. And I read the King James. I have many different sources that I actually tap into, but I actually read the King James Version of the Bible. And it doesn't say anything what I see practice in front of us. Of course, now today, a woman, she can go out and get pregnant, and she's celebrated. She is literally celebrated. See how things has done change? And there's no condemnation. There's no conviction of sin. There's nothing. And then when the baby come out, of course, in this world today, they will define a woman who is having a child out of what they call wedlock. They will call that child a bastard. But the truth is, that child is not a bastard. The truth is, according to this word right here, a bastard is someone who is born from another nation and another union that the Yah of this Bible does not approve of. For instance, the heathens, the Gentiles, the Americans, and all these other countries and religions, they have their own religion, their own gods, and their own culture. But the Hebrew Israelites in here, let me use me as an example. If I went out and I actually laid with a woman of another religion or another nation, another culture, and I had a child by her, according to the Bible, that would be considered a bastard. Now, most of you are going to simply reject that because you don't know what the word says. You know what tradition says. You know what religion says. And, I'm sure that a lot of people are simply afraid of looking at and investigating a lot of these truths simply because, to change will bring a stigma upon you. You'll have uninformed, ignorant people start calling you names, making disparaging comments about you. And of course, you're probably going to have to endure a lot of slander from ignorant people. Because most people just simply don't have the stomach nor the intestinal fortitude to actually go against wind and tide. Well, in this country, the Supreme Court has redefined marriage and said that what this Bible says is an abomination that will cause you to burn for all of eternity. They say it's all right. They say it's all right. And of course, you have to pick and choose who's your God. Either it's going to be the Elohim of this Bible, or it's going to be the Supreme Court of the United States of America. You choose. It's your choice. But I don't believe that a man marrying a man and a woman marrying a woman is biblically sound, nor is it right. I'll give you a few more examples. If a man or woman simply makes an agreement between themselves that they are going to be married, of course, the only consummation of that is to have sex, and then they're married. No state, no marriage license, no none of that. But today, how does the state interfere with this? Well, we've been trained that we have to have permission from an entity in order to do that which is lawful. So what do people do? Traditionally, they go down, and you think about this, man. Some of you have actually paid the state for your wife. You buy a marriage license. I mean, she didn't cost no more than $32. I think in some places a marriage license is $100. And of course, women, you put a cheap value on yourself. You have actually prostituted yourself for a very cheap price. Not only that, spiritually, you enter into a third-party contractual agreement with the state. And now you are in a, whether you understand it, like it or not, you are in a polygamy relationship. And of course, you do not get to determine when you dissolve that contract or their agreement. You have to actually go to the power, the source, in order to dissolve that. If you had a marriage license, you got to go to the courts. You have to go to the state wherewith you got those licenses in order to dissolve it. It'll let you know that you don't have any power or influence at all. It's a shame. You know, in our culture, our Hebraic culture, a woman cannot leave one tribe. Let's say if she's from the tribe of Judah and her husband passes on, she has to stay in that tribe. She can't go out to Benjamin. She can't go to Levite and all the other stuff. She has to stay in that tribe. And the reason being because of inheritance and children, especially sons, for inheritance. Now, I know I'm way over your head because traditional Christianity doesn't agree with what the scripture says. And what you believe does not agree. Of course, you know, the Bible says that people have a form of godliness, but they deny the power. And I'll tell you what, information is powerful and it's truthful. But when you really truly start investigating and you see what it requires, that's the reason why a lot of people choose to just close their eyes, shut up their ears, and shut their mouth rather than standing for this truth, because this truth is going to fly in the face of your tradition. And truth demands change. And most people, again, they simply just don't have the intestinal fortitude to change. So what you believe to be marriage today, now don't get me wrong, if you want to go out and get a marriage license, the state will incur and put up on you certain benefits of that agreement. You have to determine if it's good for you. I've determined that the benefits agreement is not good for me at all. But I will tell you this, though, as far as wisdom. If you're like me, I'm getting old. You know what I mean? I'm getting old. And if you're married to someone and you get a marriage license, chances are you're probably going to, more than likely, you're going to end up marrying someone your age and stuff, and that woman's childbearing years are well past. That is the time that actually getting a state license will benefit you, because the truth is the state is only interested in the children. Notice every single thing they talk about in this world today, it's all about the children, because the children are the minds that the state wants in order to continue to perpetuate the decline of morality, the decline of what we would call being civil. They want that. And they use the power of the children, and of course their enforcement is the Department of DCS, Child Protection Services, along with using the guns enforced. Isn't that amazing? Of the sheriff department or the police department when they come to try to force you to comply because you have actually contracted with them, which if you did not contract with them, you wouldn't have to worry about the DCS or the Child Protection Services because they have no jurisdiction. But you know, your preachers are not going to tell you that. Your churches are not going to tell you that. Ministers are totally ignorant to this, but the state is not. The state knows full well exactly what's going on, but they're not going to tell you. And so I know I sound like someone that is way off his rocker, but I dare you to investigate what I'm saying. Because, see, I mean, think about this. I'll give you an example. Let's say if you're 50, 55 years old and your wife's 50 years old and stuff, in order to deal with these Gentiles' wives, first of all, you're already married when you agreed to have sex with each other. Now, most people like what the Bible says in this Greek fornication. You know, that means going out and having illicit sex without a contract. That's called fornication according to the Greek model and stuff. In the Hebrew, we didn't do stuff like that. You know, you were responsible. If you bed a woman, you were responsible for it. Now, today we have unruly women. I'm sure they had them back then. That's the reason why you have divorce rights. That's why you have, judgments. Who are you going to go to? You think about this today. Who are you going to go to if you're judging something to adjudicate matters? Most of us, we want to force people by the hand of the world because they have the guns. We're not going to submit to no righteous government or no elders because, there's a wicked heart in us. You understand what I'm saying? But anyway, if you're 50, 55 years old, and let's say you're receiving or incurring some type of government benefits, or 60 years old, 65 years old, and you are married to a husband that was a veteran and he's receiving a retirement or something like that, that's the best time for you to get a marriage license, because you know why? You can't produce any children anyway. But you know what you can do? If you don't get a marriage license, that's why I believe in using it for your benefit, because the government deceives us at every end. So you have to be wise as serpent and harmless as a dove. The best thing for you to do is go out and get a marriage license, so that way, if your spouse passes, they will be able to continue to reap the benefits of your hard labor and your time and energy and effort that you put in. If not, they're going to be left without nothing. Because, think about this. Social Security. Look at how many people have paid into Social Security every single day of their life that they have actually worked. And most people today are checking out in their late 50s, early 60s, and many never, ever, ever even get to collect Social Security benefits. Where does that money go? Why, it goes into the government coffers for all these selected representatives to spend it any way they want to. And that's why it's bankrupt today, because they don't know how to balance a checkbook. See, wisdom says, listen to me very closely. Wisdom says when you like 50, 60, 70 years old and you're going to get married, man, go ahead and get the marriage license, because it don't mean anything anyway, because you're not going to have any fruit. It's only binding. It really truly is important when you're young, because they want the children. They want the children. They want to take your children and they want to condition you to go into their public institutions so that they can train your children in what they call values, religion, and morality, just in order to function in their society. That's why they want the children. You have to understand this. So, and you have one of you collecting Social Security. Man, you better go ahead and get that license. Why? So you can get that money from this wicked government who has deceived you from the very beginning, and it's not in their best interest to ever tell you the truth. Look at a police officer. When they pull you over, all right? First of all, they are not your friend. I don't care how much they smile. I don't care how kind they are. They are there to do a job, and they have learned the art of deception. The more you talk, the more you incriminate yourself, and the more that they're going to upsell. That's right. In order to connect revenue for the state. It has nothing to do with justice, has nothing to do with righteousness, has nothing to do with the law. The law by definition is evil. Anyway, I hope I said something to educate, but if I was you, I would advise, this is what I advise. I advise for young women to remain virgins until a proven, faithful man of honor and integrity, a man of his word, will come along and actually take care of you for the rest of your life. Until then, all you're doing is just giving yourself over to whoredoms. I mean, can you imagine a little girl has probably done had sex with 10 or 15 men, and then when she gets married, she wants that man to be faithful to her. And she's already been in many illicit polygamous relationships. It's sad. A woman is only designed for one man at a time, period. That's it. However, a man, according to this Bible, he can have as many wives as he wants. But it also puts a regulation. It puts a limit on it. It doesn't tell you what that limit is, but you don't want to go and be no Solomon. You should be intelligent enough to know what your means are. That's what you should. Now, I know modern day society, as well as religious people. I mean, believe you me, people will get on here, make videos, they will give you their opinion, but I've yet to see anyone in the entirety of the whole world that is willing to have an open civil debate and discussion on biblical marriage with me. Because I personally believe that if a man is responsible, and a man will provide food, clothing, and conjugal rights, and he has the ability to, I believe that man, if he wants, and he has proven himself to be a man of honor and integrity, he can have 2, 3, or 4 wives. Now, I know your religious tradition disagrees with that, but many of your pastors out there already have a wife and a mistress. Your senators, your congressmen, they have a wife and 2 or 3 mistresses. And on paper, they want to look like that they're just, but oh man, I tell you, the hypocrisy is utterly amazing. Take everything you can away from this wicked system in order to benefit you, but do it wisely and lawfully. That is the truth. So I hope I don't have to deal with these questions too many more times, but I hope I said something that will stimulate thought. You have to understand, I already know that government is not for us. They literally, truly not for us. So whatever way that you can actually keep the government out of your life, all right, you have done a very, very good job. Be private. You don't have to answer to people. People don't need to know everything that you're doing. You only have to answer to Yah. You follow me? And believe it or not, you don't know what you're doing unless you know His law. You can have a sound conscience and a sound mind. So don't sit up there and condemn someone who is in polygyny when you're out there whoring and you don't let men go all in you and put their seed inside of you. And then you're going to be the first one to rave over. It's amazing what the hypocrisy is. It used to be in my day that if a woman was laying with more than one man or has laid with more than one man, she was considered a whore. Today, I guess she's called playing the field or something like that. I don't know. Where's the standard? Where's the standard? I know it's going to upset many of you because many of your children have been bitten by the fruit of lies, and not only that, they love being Gentiles.